Today's podcast is brought to you by the Herzog Foundation. Sometimes Christmas can get so chaotic that we barely have time to celebrate the reason for the season. Well, today Sam Sorbo is going to join us, and she's going to give us a great way for families to interact and connect through stories of faith and devotion. Stay with us. Welcome to the Moms for America podcast. Each week, special guests tackle the issues facing the moms of America today. Discussions include personal stories and advice on how moms can build a strong foundation of faith, family, and freedom in their homes and country. Sam Sorbo wears many hats. She's an actress, a model, an author, an activist, a wife, and a homeschooling mom. And in addition to all of that, she happens to be on the Moms for America Board of Directors. And we just absolutely love her on our board. Well, guess what? She's joining us today to talk about a few topics that she's passionate about. You know what they are? They're Christmas, faith, and homeschooling. Well, that may sound like an odd combination, but it is not. Sam has recently released 2 books. One is The Parent's Guide to Homeschool, because she's a longtime homeschooling advocate. I know many of you know that. Sam wants homeschooling to be accessible and easy for all parents. Her second book that we'll be talking about as well is a Christmas devotional she wrote with her husband, Kevin, just in time for the holidays. Well, I am so delighted to have our special friend on this podcast today. You know her. I love her. Sam Sorbo is joining us. Welcome to the Moms for America podcast, Sam.
Well, it's great to be here with you. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're one of our favorites. You know that.
Thank you.
One of my favorite things for Christmas.
Oh, lovely.
So let's talk a little bit about the family. I know most of our moms know you, but let's just get reacquainted a little bit. Tell us about your family, the kids, the hubby, all that quick fun stuff before we get into Christmas and actually eventually homeschooling.
Yeah, we probably won't get there because I love to talk about my kids.
You have to give the abbreviated version.
Okay. So we have 3 kids, and it's funny because on our first date, my husband said to me that he knew he was going to have 3 children, boy, boy, girl. And I looked at him and I said, that's so weird. That's what I'm having, boy, boy, girl. And that's what we had. And so now we have Braden, who's 23, Shane, who is 20, and Octavia, who is 19, and she just graduated high school last spring. And so they are all up on their own and adults now. And it's a whole new season of life for me. And it was really interesting because this past fall, I went through a little bit of a withdrawal from not having kids in school anymore. Is kind of wild. Right. So.
Well, it gives you a little bit more time to do all the great things that God's called you to do. And how's Kevin, by the way? And just a little bit about your hubby real quick.
Yeah, so Kevin has a new movie that just came out called God's Here. God is here, but it's God's Here. And it's fantastic. It's a lovely Christian Christmas movie that's streaming, I think, everywhere right now. So it just launched. And also my middle son is in it. Shane joins him as part of the cast. And so that's kind of exciting. So the family's still working together. Braden has a new book that's coming out. He just sent me the latest version, so I've got some reading homework to do. Wow. And Tavi's very busy doing her art. And she said to me, so Tavi is an artist and she struggles with people complimenting her. And and there's a thing, like she's afraid of hubris, or I'm not sure, but she's intimidated by this thought that people are complimenting her, and she's a perfectionist, and so it's never good enough for her. But she actually texted me this morning and said that she realized that her gifting was God's calling on her life. And so when people were praising her artwork, they were actually praising God.
Amen. I was just going to say something varied to that, but that is, if we give him the glory and we're the vessel, it puts it all in perspective. So that's so exciting.
Yeah.
It's so exciting for her and for the family. And I'm so glad to hear about the Christmas movie. I've got to put that on my list because everybody loves watching those Hallmark movies or
Yes.
family-based, family-friendly movies around Christmas. So you heard it here, mamas. Check it out. The new movie that Kevin Sorbo is starring in called God Here. All right. Well, we're talking Christmas. So,
Yay.
with all that, we're going to talk about the book and a little bit about your Christmas. You and Kevin together, from what I understand, had very different childhood memories of Christmas. And you talk a lot about this in the book. And we talk about devotions and, kind of ideas for keeping Christ at the center of the Christmas. Talk a little bit about, you came from two different worlds, which, right, all of us do when we get married,
Yep.
right? A little bit about his Christmas because he talks about it, and your Christmases growing up, and then we'll talk about what you've done together as husband and wife.
So Kevin was sort of grandfathered into the Christmas tradition. His family always celebrated Christmas. He went to church all throughout his youth, and so Christmas was a big deal in their family, and they celebrated together and did the church thing together, and it was all basically very cohesive. Christ at the center, the family, and then the celebration as well. And I had a completely different experience,
Mm.
and I had some negative experiences during Christmas, which I struggled with because I was raised in a Jewish. I was raised to be Jewish, but we celebrated Christmas and Easter. Never went to church, never went to synagogue, but I did do Saturdays Jewish school, and so it was just a mess. It was a
Yeah,
hot mess.
that's confusing, right? Literally, that's so confusing. What are you
Yeah, and so
celebrating
so
and why?
Christmas
Yeah.
Christmas was all about the presents, and that made it actually more of a challenge. And what I realized when I became a Christian is that Christmas is not about the presents. It's about the reason for the season, Jesus Christ. And so the idea behind Christmas is you give gifts as a celebration of his love
Yeah.
and the love that you have in your heart as a result of his love. And so it just becomes a completely different thing. And so I purposed, because happiness is a choice. I
Mm.
purposed to celebrate Christmas with that in mind,
Mm.
and it alleviated the stress that I felt, because I was always very stressed before I became a Christian and before I started thinking this way. I was always stressed about buying gifts for people, and I resented buying gifts for people. Like, I have to buy this person a gift, and I
What do
mean,
they want?
and what do they want, and what can you get the
Right.
person who has everything already, and stuff like
Right.
that. And then I switched it around. This whole attitude shift switches it up, and it becomes a joy to buy
Yeah.
gifts, which incidentally, I've already bought all my gifts for Christmas. I'm done. Like,
I'm close, but not done. But good
right?
for you.
And so the devotional, which is what we're really referencing here, and I have a copy here. It's called Christmas 40 Days Devotional. Christmas for 40 days is what I want people to understand. Is Christmas is a season,
Yeah.
and there's a way to bring that season as part of your whole life. It takes 30 days to create a habit. So if you do this for 40 days, maybe it'll become more of a habit in your everyday life. And who
Mhm.
doesn't want the joy of Christmas in their everyday life? Although I use that word joy very hesitatingly because they've perverted that.
They sure have. I mean,
So
they've, right, gay, joy, all that stuff. They've just really taken it and redefined it, which is another conversation you and I have had 100 times. But I'm glad that we've got the mic and we can talk about the true definitions of
yes.
all of these things, including what Christmas really is. What kind of experiences? We're going to get into some of the specifics about the book and why you wrote it. But just before we do that, what do you do as far as Christmas at the Sorbos? What
Oh,
did you concentrate on? Because all of us as moms, right? We determine what we determine everything. Of course, we determine the holidays and what we feel as a family is important to us and what we want to develop in our homes.
well, okay. So my husband absolutely loves Christmas. And so he starts decorating for Christmas. Initially, we started decorating right before Halloween because we dislike Halloween. And so we wanted to skip right towards the real holiday kind of thing. And we kind of skip over, in a sense, Thanksgiving, because we're already celebrating Christmas before Thanksgiving. But then what happened is, over the years, my husband, as he travels so much, the amount of time that he would be able to spend in the house with the decoration, with the Christmas spirit, was shrunken by the amount of time that he had to be traveling. And so one year, not very long ago, my daughter decided that for his birthday present, he would come home because he was gone on his birthday. For his birthday, he would come home to a Christmas house. And so she started decorating for Christmas before September 24th, which is Kevin's birthday. So we've
Wow,
been
that is really ahead of the game.
Yeah, so we've been decorating. So then that started a trend. So we decorate starting in September. We take our time, but we start bringing out the decorations and putting them up. We have, I think it's 36 Santa Clauses, and lots of nativity scenes. We have a very large nativity scene that includes an elephant, which I love because I love elephants. And so it's just we have more than one tree. I think we're down to three this year, but we've had more. Uh, and so the whole house is decked out. And this past year, we left one of the trees up. He didn't want to take it down, and I don't want to get in the way of his joy. So we had a tree up all year long, just with white lights on it, but it was very pretty. And the Christmas lights are very special. And they're very meaningful to him particularly, but then of course to all of us because we all celebrate together. So that's our Christmas.
I love that.
And that really was the genesis of the book, Christmas 40 Days Devotional, because I want people to understand you can celebrate Christmas all year long. You don't have to like just do that the morning of the 25th or whatever, right? So that's our thing.
I love that. Two things just to comment on. I have kept my Christmas trees up late into February, and I have turned them into St. Patrick's Day trees or
Yes,
Valentine's trees, and
yes.
kind of because they are just so beautiful. It's really hard to let go of them. And so I get it. And I love the fact that you start early because it's so much work to set up for 3 weeks. Remember, like when I grew up, my parents would set the tree up for 3 weeks, and it was like a ton of work. So I put mine up a little bit before Thanksgiving and do Thanksgiving and the whole thing too. But I think all of us just really enjoy the season so much, and it brings so much hope, and it's full of so much faith in your family that everybody really does. So let's talk about the devotional book. You're talking a little bit about the genesis of it, but I mean, this just was laid on both of your hearts, and you said God wants us to do a devotional.
Well, we started thinking about it and talking about it, and I wanted to include the 12 days of Christmas. So there are 12 days that cover also the song, the 12 days of Christmas. We bring that into the discussion a little bit. But the main thing that I really wanted to include in the book was the Christmas commissions, and those
Mm.
feature on every devotion. There are ideas for how to implement Christmas in your life. So one of the ways that I
Yeah,
bring
some
the Chris,
examples.
yeah,
Yeah.
one of the ways that I do, and I've done this for years. When I was on the radio, I hosted 3 hours a day, talk radio during the time that I was homeschooling the kids. So early years. And I remember having somebody come on the show. He was a young man from, I think, Ghana, and he had been the recipient of an Operation Christmas Child Christmas box
Mm.
that Samaritan's
Yeah.
Purse distributes throughout the world. And he explained it to me, and I literally was like crying on the air when he told me that receiving that box, I'm getting emotional now, receiving that box
Mm.
was was a testimony to him that somebody in the world loved him, and it was therefore the testimony that God loved him, right? And it was
Yes.
just receiving a box with little goodies in it that did that for him. And so I purposed right then and there, well, I'm going to do a Christmas box.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, I can do more than one. And so
Right.
I set up like an assembly line, and we would do a dozen boxes or
Mm.
more, and we'd
I
invite
did
friends
too.
over, and we'd
Yeah.
invite the friends to help us fill the box. We'd say, hey, why don't you bring pencils, and why don't you bring erasers, and why don't you bring, to fill the boxes. And it became this, we were Santa's elves, kind of thing. And
I love
um
it. Yep, we did
and
that
so
here too.
that's the thing that gave me the impetus to say, hey, there are other ways that you can spread Christmas. We
Hmm.
used to go to the nursing home, and the kids would play piano for the elderly at the nursing home. Or, there are plenty of ideas. And so I made a whole list of them, and we put two or three for every devotion in the book. So there's over 80 ideas for how to spread Christmas cheer, let's say. just in your own life, but also in others. Like hang ornaments from the little light fixture that's over your kitchen table. Hang ornaments from that, or streamers, or put cloves in oranges, so there's a scent, and then put that on the table so you have that scent in the room. Those kinds of things.
Right. There's so many wonderful things you can do during the holiday and creativity right now. I even think with you can look everything up now. There's just so many opportunities to make your home um just it's your castle, it's your retreat, right? It's
Right.
it's the place where we invest, and I love the ideas that you have. Now, in this devotional, do you go through this as a family? Kind of explain the layout of the book so people know, because one, they can get it still for this Christmas, and
Yes.
two, they can gift it as a Christmas gift,
And I should point
which
out,
is what I want to do.
if they go to storbostudios.com, we're offering free shipping before Christmas. And there's also, we've made an ornament that goes along with the book, and there's a
Mm.
magnet in there. We put together a Christmas bundle, so that's available at storbostudios.com. But I will point out, because it is a gift book, right? So it's, hardcover, and then it's very pretty on the inside, which I love. So that's the first day of day 17. And then you've got the inside that very pretty design, you've got the scripture, and then you've got the devotion, and then you've got a prayer and some discussion questions with a little bit of a fill in the blank if you choose to take notes. And the reason that I did that is I did this with another devotional that I wrote for families for the school year. Kids say amazing things, and we purposed very early on. Kevin did this. He wrote down the crazy things that my kids would say, and we will hit them up at the wedding with quotes from them.
Yeah. Bring out
And
the book, right?
right. And so the idea is there are discussion questions that are open ended. So they're not yes, no questions. They're open ended. How does knowing Jesus change our perspective about misfortune, for instance? That's one of them. Or when was a time you focused on truth rather than joy? The third one here is, how is focusing on joy a solution, even when truth is harsh and challenging? Right. And
Mm.
so having the kids think about these things really brings it brings things into focus, I think. And by the way, like, those questions aren't, I know they sound like they're out of the blue, but they're based on the story that's here about well, like, I honestly, I can't remember. It's about a friendship and these two boys who went into business together, and then things went a little bit awry. So anyway, they're I'm getting very distracted now, off topic, but the
Well,
idea
no,
is
so
that
it's related stories with related questions that you bring your children into, and you have them think about it, right? And that's what we want to be doing.
that's what we want to be doing. That's called parenting,
Yeah.
and it's educational, and it's also related to Christmas, because
Amen.
not every Christmas is going to be picture perfect. And I think we've been sort of suckered into this idea that life is picture perfect, because
Mm.
now we're on Instagram, and now we're on TikTok, and we're we've entered into, I think they're calling it the third wave of social media. But even the second wave, first wave was Facebook, second wave was Instagram, third wave's TikTok. Even the first wave was, you go on Facebook and you'd see the vacation photos of your friends, and you'd think,
Right.
wow, their life is just perfect. My
Perfect.
life is such crap compared to them in Barbados, or in, wherever, Miami. And we have to be very careful of that, because their
Yeah.
lives are just as messed up,
Yeah,
if
it's all
not more
messy,
so.
right? We're all working it out.
Right. And so it's good to sit down with your family and talk through things. And it also opens up the dialogue, so your kids are less intimidated to come talk to you about other things,
Mm. Right.
and that's an important thing. In fact, I was just listening to this researcher who says, don't give your children social media until the age of 18 now. That's the recommendation, because
That's what I heard.
social media today, the third wave, is so detrimental. It was, for a time, it was from like age 12, a half hour a day was okay, was sort of neutral. Now it's immediate, the destruction that social media creates within the
Yeah.
child's brain, their psyche, their undeveloped, psyche. And so let's turn the other way. Let's pivot,
Mhm.
and do it differently, and engage with our kids instead of allowing them or encouraging them to engage outwardly. Have them engage within the family, I think.
Mhm.
And
Amen.
Christmas
Yeah.
is the perfect time to start that new habit.
Right. Absolutely. Now, amen on all that, because social media has become so advanced. It's a different ball game than it was 5 years ago, clearly. So let's talk about the book too. Is this half of maybe the stories are from your family? It's a combination of
Yeah.
stories that have touched you and in your family, correct?
Yeah. So it's some true stories, it's some family stories that are true, and then it's also some made up stories that were just fun to write, and got across the point that we were trying to make with that day of the
Yeah.
devotional. Yeah.
And so it's Advent, it's Christmas, obviously Christmas time, and then it also leads on to and discusses Three Kings Day, which
Yeah.
I think is something that we don't talk enough about, and I love that because it extends the holiday,
Yeah.
and it's a little bit of a different focus for us as we wrap up Christmas in a way,
Right.
right?
Yeah. I love that you say it wrapped up. It's the bow.
Yeah.
It's that final bow on the present that is Christmas.
So Three Kings Day, tell us why you decided to include that, because that's what, January?
Yes. January, I think it's the 6th.
Okay.
So, well, it's just part, I don't know, it's just part of the whole thing. I felt like if I didn't include it, we would be like, that would be incorrect. It's celebrated. It's not particularly Christian. It's more Orthodox, but there's no reason not to at least examine it and look at it. And you don't have to celebrate it or worship in a certain way in order to acknowledge it. You can
Mhm.
simply acknowledge it and say, okay. And that was the whole point of the book was, if I could have done Christmas for 365 days, I would have, you
Yeah.
know, and maybe that's the next book. I don't know.
Right. It
But I
is
just thought,
because
you
it
know
is.
what? 40 days is biblical. Let's do
It
40
is
days.
the number
Um,
40. Yep.
right. And in fact, like this devotional, it's a little bit longer than your standard devotional. A lot of devotionals are like a single page. So you get a little tiny snippet of a story and a little tiny prayer and this one is more the extended version, I would say. So it's more than one page. The stories are a little bit more in depth. So they're a little more involved. So you have some more to digest and chew on, let's say, with your family. And so it's about being all encompassing to the best extent that I could. And I only had 40 days. So there you go.
Mom, so we're going to take a short break right now. And when we come back, Sam will talk about her second book that she just released and her passion for homeschooling. Stay with us. Hi, moms. I'm excited to share some news about our new sponsor, the Herzog Foundation. We know you're passionate about raising patriots and empowering your children with the best education possible. And the Herzog Foundation shares that passion. They're dedicated to promoting liberty through education freedom and helping parents like you choose the best educational path. They offer a powerhouse of resources designed to support families and schools alike. Whether you're ready to dive in headfirst to the world of education or simply looking for more ways to empower your child's learning. From free training events to their must read online publication, The Lion, they're committed to keeping you informed about what's happening in education. Also, if you've ever thought, moms, about starting your own Christian school or co op, their School Box online course will give you everything you need to get started on the right foot. Again, we are so proud to partner with the Herzog Foundation, and we encourage you to explore all their amazing tools and the insights that they offer. So go ahead, visit herzogfoundation.com to learn more. You won't want to miss these incredible resources. Again, find it all out at herzogfoundation.com.
I've never really felt comfortable sharing pictures of my kids on social media. Then I found Tuvu, a premium social app with an actual, authentic community. No bots, no one trolling me or my family. Just clean, wholesome content you can trust.
Welcome back to the Moms for America podcast. Before we go any further, I do want to just mention a couple things before we get back to our discussion with Sam Sorbo. Are you loving this discussion? She's so great. All right. I do want to invite everyone to like, subscribe, and share our podcast. This is how we get this information out. Of course, everybody's going to love this podcast as well. So please go ahead and share this with your mom friends. Also, if you have an idea or a topic or any feedback, would you please email me at podcast@momsforamerica.net. Again, that is podcast@momsforamerica.net. Love to hear your suggestions and any feedback. And lastly, moms, I want to invite all of you listening to join our movement here at Moms for America. If you are with us and you're one of our mamas, so wonderful to have you. If you're not, maybe this is the first time you're hearing about us, I would love to invite you personally to join the movement here at Moms for America. Moms like us are uniting all across the country. We are fighting for faith, family, freedom, and the Constitution. We're doing it all across from coast to coast, and we have so much incredible information for you moms to help you on your journey through motherhood. So please check us out at momsforamerica.us. How do you join? Real simple. You sign up for our newsletter. You take advantage of all of our free materials that we have for you. Again, we are here to support you moms. Everything that happens in your home, we have resources for that. So please join us again, momsforamerica.us, and be a part of our family. You said that you had Santas in your home. This is always kind of a struggle for moms and dads, clearly. How do we, you can't avoid Santa. He's the big guy around the holidays, but yet what do you do and how do you include him? And obviously you still included Santa in your home.
Oh, we did. And I have friends who refuse to celebrate the holiday because it's linked to paganism, Saturnalia. I don't know. Like there's a lot of different levels of your investment in the holiday.
Mm-hmm.
We embraced Santa in our house. It was just that was part of Christmas. So there was the Christ Christmas, and then there's also Santa Claus. And I don't think that Santa Claus could ever take away from Christ and Christmas. And he certainly never did in our house. But we just had fun with him. He's sort of the embodiment of Christmas in the secular world. And so we were like, we're just going to have that. And my husband grew up with Santa Claus also. I grew up with Santa Claus, albeit in a bit of an odd way. And so that's just our tradition now. But I understand families that struggle with that. I don't think Santa Claus is mentioned in this book at all, because he's not really Christmas in my mind. He's just linked to Christmas. So this is the essence of Christmas, which is Christ. Right. And then there's Santa Claus, and every family has to work it out. Look, there's Elf on a Shelf. We never did Elf on a Shelf, but I know families who do. And mm-hmm. The elf moves around the house during the holidays and is watching you. And that's kind of like, do you want your child to think that that an elf is watching them? But children have vivid imaginations, and I don't think we should shut down those imaginations. So I understand that it's a little bit of a tug of war inside the home. And I support people who disregard Santa Claus, and I support people who embrace Santa Claus, as long as they're also acknowledging and understanding that Christ is the reason we have Christ Mass. Right.
And we'll never get rid of Christ and Christmas. You just can't rewrite it.
You can't.
Yeah.
So if you want to include elves and Santa Claus, I mean, some of the best Christmas movies are pagan, but there's a reason for the emotions. I was talking with somebody yesterday, and I said, so are you Christian? And he said, well, I mean, I grew up going to church. I mean, I embrace Christian morality. And I'm like, well, that's a start, because that is the morality that we all ascribe to. It would be better if we understood where it came from.
Yeah. And exactly what you're saying is, why is there movies about Christmas with elves and Santa? It's because Christmas is that big of an event that literally changed history when Christ came as a baby to live on earth and, give us his everything, his sacrifice. What we did in our home is we got the kids all had one big gift from Santa. And that was it. And he filled the stockings. And we kept it really kind of simple. But one day, I'll never forget, my son came home and he goes, Mom, I don't know, maybe we weren't really good because like so and so, he got like 50 presents from Santa and we only get one. He started putting it two and two together. And then I just said to him, well, that family's just in need more. You have people, you have parents that can bless you. So, it's funny. Everybody's got to figure out what works, but we just felt like that was a great piece in our home.
Yeah.
Santa's still around, but he's not the focus of it. And so those are just some ideas. Like you said, everybody's got to work it out in their home.
Exactly. And you can do different things every year. Like the kids won't really notice, but Santa's just kind of fun. And we studied the history of Saint Nicholas and
Yeah.
the Dutch wooden shoes that they used to be shoes and then they were stockings. And I wanted to say that sometimes I sign my gift cards to the family, Samta.
There you go. There you go.
So I think it's important that you do talk seriously with your children about who Christ was.
Yeah.
And why we celebrate the holiday and why we believe the things that we do, why we follow the law, why we believe in the law, like all of these things that relate back to the Bible and the Ten Commandments and all those things. There's a big argument about VeggieTales. Like, how dare you turn the prophets into vegetables? That's not healthy for kids. So, if you're really struggling with Santa, then maybe quit the VeggieTales, videos also. Like you can take this as far as you want, or
Sure.
you can just sort of roll with the punches a little bit and allow things that bring joy, that just bring joy. And that's really, I think, what Santa does. I never use Santa as, wow, if you don't behave, Santa's not going to bring you gift. It was always just a fun addition to the holiday for us.
I love that. It's good. I mean, these are great things to talk through because, believe it or not, you do get this question a lot. What do you do about these holidays that, are essentially really, let's look, I mean, we're not going to go to the Easter Bunny, but it's the same thing there. You know what I mean?
The same
All
thing
of
with the
these,
Easter Bunny, but also Halloween. How
right,
do you manage Halloween? And
right.
I struggled mightily with Halloween
Yeah.
myself with the kids. And then what I decided was it was a fun time to dress up. So we would do dress up, but we never did the ghoulish, death loving, cultish stuff.
Correct.
And I will tell you, like my youngest, she really struggled because her birthday's October, and we would go, if we went to she would refuse to go to the stores because she didn't want to see the Halloween decorations that they put out because they just get more ghoulish every year. So
Mhm.
I don't know. Look, you live in the secular world now. We are basically a post-Christian culture. Let's keep the Christian ethic alive and figure out how to compromise. I suppose compromise is maybe a bad word, but be a little bit gracious with the secular world as well.
Yeah. Well, again, this is why you wrote the book, and this is why the book is so important. And this is why
Yes.
all of us in our homes need to be having round tables and kitchen table discussions and prayers in the evening and whatever that is in your home to celebrate Christ, keeping Christ the center of Christmas. So thank you, Sam, for writing this book.
Thank you.
I think, and to Kevin, and I think a lot of our moms are going to really enjoy this and give it as a gift. So we'll make sure that everybody has your information on how to get that book. Now, on the final pages of that book, the Christmas devotional, you and Kevin talk about, this is a great transition, about how God has directed both of you to new callings in your life through the journey of your marriage and your ministry opportunities. For Kevin, as we talked about, it was bringing encouragement and great movies for families. And then God just birthed an incredible passion for education and homeschooling. And so you also, not only do you have this book for Christmas, but you also have a new book called Parents Guide to Homeschool about educating your children. Tell us a little bit about this.
Well, first of all, I'll focus back on you mentioned at the end of the book, because the reason that I included that was because I'm I'm blessed to meet people who who expose me to the idea that God is moving in our lives and
Mhm.
that God has guided their steps. And so I wanted, and because I was exposed to that, um, it sort of changed the way I started thinking about things. If I look back through my life, I understand that God was in those moments of decision, and he can be in your moments of decision too. So this book, that last sort of chapter, was like an encouragement for people to allow God to speak into their lives. And a lot of times, we drown God out. Like we're like, la
Mm.
la 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 la, I can't hear you,
Right.
because there's so much distraction. And so I want to encourage people to sit down and listen for those urgings that God will put in your heart, and maybe directions, because it's always a blessing. And so
That's
yes,
true.
I've had several moments like that in my life. The moment in the hospital when Kevin was very ill, and I decided that my choice was for marriage instead of career, because I couldn't have both. And by the way, you can't have everything. I know they tell you you can have it all. There's too much, you can't. Uh, and then there was another moment when my daughter was very clear that she did not want me leaving the house, as much as I was. And so that was a decision that I made. And then later, the decision that I made to keep Braden out of the schools after second grade, because they were so detrimental, or his particular schooling. And we moved for the schools. Like, we moved there because
Oh,
that was the good public school, and it was not good, and it wasn't educational. And so then I started on that path of just homeschooling the kids. I said to Kevin, I think I could fail at homeschooling him and he'll still be better off. And unfortunately, that's truer today than it was back then. Back then, we hadn't even seen Common Core yet. Now
right.
we've not only seen Common Core, but we're seeing all the gender theology that's coming in the classrooms, and the pornography that's in the classrooms and the books. And so it started me on a whole journey, which I wrote about in my first book, They're Your Kids, which talks about my journey into being a homeschool advocate. And now this latest book, which, I happen to have right here,
Oh, there
is
we go.
Parents Guide to Homeschool. Now, this
Yes.
book is intended to emancipate parents from the schools. And I say emancipate
Mm.
because we are enslaved by our schools. The
Because it is a
things that
strong term. Yeah.
It's a strong term, but it's for good reason. First of all, it wakes people up. They go, wait, what do you mean? Like, how can you
Mhm.
say that, or whatever? The reason that I say that is because parents think they can't homeschool. And the reason that they think, just the default is, I can't do that. The reason is because they went to school and school taught them what they couldn't do. Unfortunately,
Mm.
that's what school teaches. Because if you didn't get an A in it, you can't do it, right? That's the offset. If you didn't get an A, because school is where you learned. You didn't learn outside of school. You only learn in school. That's the
Mm.
paradigm.
Makes
And the
sense.
reason, like, I say these things, I know they're coming off like pretty brash, but that's the paradigm. And it's what we've been infused with it.
Yeah.
So we haven't, like, knowing thoughtfully adopted it. It's been implanted. And so it's implanted in you that you can't homeschool because you think, well, first of all, you think school is education, and it's not.
Right.
But they taught you that it is. So you believe them because your parents told you, believe the schools. That's why, because we love you. We want you to go to school because the school is teaching you and the school is educating you. And unfortunately, that's also not the case. I know it
Yeah.
sounds really like I've gotten so strident, but it's
You
true,
are. You're very, I love your strong opinion on this because I do think that mothers need to evaluate and think better
Right,
about all of these situations with our children so
right.
they
And
can
that's
make and so they can make the right decisions.
Right. And that's why I wrote the book
Yeah.
and it's an easy book. It's a workbook. So there's a lot of questions and a lot of answer space in it and very simple writing. It's very lightweight. Like it's an easy book. And the idea is to get you to think more about the future for your child as opposed to the schooling of your child.
Mm.
So we send our children to school. The schools say college prep and career readiness. So we want our kids to go to college because that's what the schools tell us we should want, because then they'll get a career. And the kids are graduating college, not able to hold a job, much less have a career. So they're not delivering on their own promises. The test scores are down.
Right.
Their test scores are in the gutter. We spend more per child than almost any other nation, except I think Switzerland spends a little bit more than we do. And our results are worse and worse every year, not better, worse. And the only reason that they might look like they're better is because we've lowered the standards. So
Correct.
proficiency in the state of Ohio, what would you say proficiency should be? What would a test score be to be counted as proficient? 80%, 85%, maybe 70%? Okay, 70%, no, 36%. That's a failing grade, but it counts as proficient in the state of Ohio. And
Incredible.
I think it's in Maryland, over half the students are not proficient. And that's a 36% test score.
That's incredible.
You know, half the students are not proficient and they're graduating in math and reading. And they're graduating in the state of Oregon. You don't need to know math or reading to graduate high school. They just full off just said no. Because the schools are not about education or even academics anymore. They're all about ideology and indoctrination.
Right.
And they have the wrong doctrine. So we have to be very careful because they have the wrong doctrine that they're instilling in our pride and joy, our children, our babies,
Right.
our little ones, our precious youngsters,
100%,
and they're doing damage. And so that's why I've become so vocal about this. Also, because the solution is so easy. The solution is not only easy, it's fun, and it's the best thing you could possibly do with your life. The solution. But you think
gotten
it's
so much
hard.
popular. It's gotten so much popular, I would say. I mean, you know, you'd think 20 years ago, homeschooling was an oddity. And then the kids were always, you know, not socialized. It was all this kind of press around homeschooling. And now, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know it's on the rise and you would know those stats even better than I would, but surely the increase in the popularity of it, moms are taking it back. And so many moms even are doing maybe work out of the home a little bit so they can do both. Moms are figuring it out, bottom line.
I have a gal who works for me. She works full time and she homeschools her 10-year-old now. And she's worked for me for 3 years. And the little girl used to come to work with her every day.
Sure.
Employers are becoming much more lenient with this. So the idea that you're a single mom and you can't do it we've put that to bed. The idea that you're both parents work outside the home, you can get it done. There are solutions. And let's see. So number one, education doesn't take more than an hour or two a day from the parents. So we believe, so that's what this book goes through. Like,
Yes.
I don't want to bore you with all the details, but it goes through all the different lies that we've accepted. And that's why, you know, people are like, well, homeschooling's hard. No, it's not. Well, you know, I can't because I'm a single parent. Yes, you can. So my point is we need to reprioritize. We need to define what we mean by education and define what we want for our children. Because if you want Harvard and the corner office, doing the school route might get you there, but you'll lose your child in the process.
And a
Because
lot of
that's how
people
it works
have.
these days.
Yes.
And
It really
I
has.
can't tell you the number of parents who say, I wish I'd spoken to you earlier. I wish I'd known about this earlier. I wish. And so I'm just here, and it's emotional for me because I know that I save kids and I save parents. And I'll tell you, the other day I was at an event and somebody came up to me and said, you changed our lives. And I was like, really? What did I do? And she's like, 3 years ago you were speaking, and she reminded me of where it was. She said, my husband asked you about our second child. and you sort of dove a little bit deeper. And I found out that he wanted to pull his second child because the second child was not thriving in school, but the first child was doing really well. But really well, how? Like, what are they teaching him? And why? And, and so I said, take them out. And he said, okay, so at the end of the school year, I said, no, why wait? Take them out tomorrow. They're not getting anything that's valuable, and they're just being driven away from you inside the schools. Well, he was there with the whole family. So I met the whole family, and it's been 3 years, and they're like, our lives are so much better now. The stress, the pressure's gone. Like, they work together. They were there actually representing the family business because the kids are all now involved in the business.
Nice.
And he still has his work. He still is the main supporter of the family, but they're a cohesive, like, and that's the joy, right? Because there's no tombstone that says, I wish I spent more time at the office.
Sure.
The tombstones are all about the relationships that you've had.
Right.
And that's what you have to look forward to in your old age. So have kids, have lots of kids, and keep them close.
Amen. And I love that, because it does, homeschooling or any projects you take on, that is a chance for the family to unite and go to the next level.
I want to point out, because I was tweeting about this, Elon Musk showed up at the Senate with I think his kids like 4 or 5, right?
Yes.
That's homeschooling.
Yeah.
And don't you think that Elon Musk has a little bit more to offer in the way of education?
Sure.
Than a teacher who just graduated from the Marxist training college that she went to. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, teachers are well versed in classroom management.
Yeah.
Is that what you want your child to learn? No. You want your child to learn the family business. You want your child to learn about life. You want your child to learn how to be a good person, how to be a strong adult who can take responsibility and ask for forgiveness and offer forgiveness and be gracious and all of these other things. And so Elon Musk bringing his kid to work, and by the way, the symbolism of him putting the child on top of his shoulders, like, this is the priority, folks. I just loved it. I just loved that.
I did too. And all of us have those, sweet moments that we do include our children. I know that's another thing. Clearly, the public education is failing academically, and it's failing because it is an indoctrination camp. Undeniable. It's just at what level in your area. But you also talk about, which is kind of on the heels of this, just the limitations of school in general, and how you kind of squash their creativity because they have to sit and they've got to be in these boxes all the time. And I know that's another thing that you bring up, because there's multi-levels to education.
There's so much to unpack. That's why I put it all in the book. And the book is a really good, strong start. And then you will discover other ways that you've been impacted by your own education, by your own schooling. But one thing that the school tells us is that we need to specialize. And there's value in specialization, but I know plenty of people who do a lot of different things. I'm one of them, actually. And the school told me, no, you can only do one thing. But that's not true. And there's so many of these lies that we've bought into that we've actually put to the test in our own lives and proven are wrong. For instance, you can only learn in school. No, you've got YouTube now. You can learn anything you want on YouTube. You just look it up. How do I install a toilet? Okay, now I know
Google.
how to install a toilet. Like, right. So the idea is, when you don't put the shackles on your children, by making them sit down in a school classroom with a teacher every day, but you allow them the freedom. And so this is what I did is, we got our school day done before 1 o'clock every day. And so the time after that, the kids basically were exploring the world and discovering things for themselves. And that's how my daughter became such a pronounced artist. She's so gifted, but she was teaching herself. So when I was 12, I figured out I needed to find an anatomy class for her because she's an artist, and I didn't know how else to teach that. I still thought I was the teacher. By the way, there are really no teachers. There are people who can teach, right? But the real teacher is the individual. You teach yourself. You're the one that purposes to learn. You're the one who chooses to learn. And then you're the one who teaches yourself based on what other people are showing you. Or wherever you find it. If it's from a book, if it's from an individual, if it's from a video, whatever. I ran up to my daughter's room and I said, hey, we should find you anatomy classes. And she gave me this, oh, bless your heart kind of look. And she showed me her sketchbook, and she was already teaching herself anatomy. She had drawings of the human body with labeled because she wanted to learn the stuff. And she was 11 or 12 at the time. Yeah. So my point is, if you set your child free, they will identify the things that they need to know. Why? Because God put in every child an engine, and the engine is curiosity. And the problem is we shut those engines off when we send our children to school. We shut down those engines. We tell them, stop being curious. You have to raise your hand. You need permission to ask a question. You can't just learn like that. You have to wait your turn. And it has to coincide with what the teacher wants to talk about. If she doesn't want to talk about that,
right,
you can't learn that.
Sure.
You can't ask her that. And so we shut down the curiosity. George Land did a study years ago to try to figure out how to find the most creative people. And so he started with 5-year-olds, and he tested them, and they tested at like a 95% genius level creativity. And then 5 years later, the 10-year-olds he tested were at like a 38% genius level creativity. Wow. And then 5 years later, at 15, they tested at 12%, and the PhDs tested at 2%. So the point is, the more you go through the institution, the more conformed you are to not thinking outside the box, the more conformed you are. We need nonconformists. We need outside the box thinkers. We need to empower our children to be creative, because they're going to have to solve problems that we can't even imagine now. Sure. It's already begun. You know, the schools are training kids for jobs that existed 100 years ago.
Good point. Yeah, good point. Right. Oh, Sam, you've been so inspiring. I so appreciate you stopping by and chatting with us. I do want to have you give just a last minute or a last word of encouragement to our moms. But again, moms, we have the Christmas movie with Kevin that is out. We have the 40-day devotional for Christmas, the guide to homeschooling. So this was power packed with some incredible resources that you have all seen on the screen and are included in our description here. But Sam, closing thoughts of encouragement to the moms that are on the fence. I just love your spirit of enthusiasm for this topic. I'd love for you to close us out.
I just want to say to moms, you know, you are the primary go-between between your child and the world, and don't abdicate that role. You need to run interference for your kids, and you need to be there for support. And when you offer your child to a stranger, you're losing out on that. I know it's an awesome responsibility, but it's a tremendous blessing to be able to be there for your child. And so I would encourage you, you are more than enough. God gave you your child, and you and your husband, your children, to be the caretakers of, and to train in the way that they should go. And so I just want to encourage parents, you're more than enough. You are the curriculum. Your children want to be like you. They want to be you. And you're the best person to be able to show them how to be that. And the last thing I'll say is, your children have so much to teach you. So be encouraged, because the more time you spend with them, the better of a person you'll become. I know that that's true in my own life. And so I wish that for you. And then finally, a very Merry Christmas to all the people out there, all the families and all the moms and dads and grandparents and children and everybody.
Yes. Well, thank you, Sam. We are the greatest influencers in our children's lives. Merry Christmas to the Sorbos.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas to all of our moms here.
Go to sorbostudios.com, sign up for the newsletter so we can stay in touch. That's the best way to stay in touch. And thanks so much.
Yeah. Thanks for all the great resources. We love you, and
love
all
you
the
too.
best. Merry Christmas.
Blessings.
All right, moms, thanks again for joining us. That's a wrap here. Please share this again with your mom friends. Like, share, subscribe. Also, I do want to remind everyone, if you could give us a little rating, that does help us, and share everything on our social media posts as well. We're here to help moms. We have amazing programs, incredible resources, seminars, webinars, podcasts, everything you can imagine. Brochures. I mean, just everything that you can imagine that you need in your home as a mom, we have them for you. all free of charge. Again, check us out at momsforamerica.us. Like I always say, we have everything from parents' rights to public policy, from the kitchen table to Congress. We have it all, and we will keep you updated, and we will keep changing our country one home at a time. Thanks, moms, and I'll see you next week. Merry Christmas. A special thank you to our sponsors, the Herzog Foundation and Tuvu. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Herzog Foundation.